What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the 15 Minutes of Flame podcast, and I'm your host, Paper Drew. I want to go ahead and thank each and every one of you before we start this episode for tuning in, having taken the time out of your day to listen to what I have to say. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into today's episode. It is a follow-up of the previous episode that I did, which was entitled, I Need Answers. Joakim Noah is in the NBA or on a current NBA roster, but not Melo. And I wanted to get some objective thoughts and ideas and opinions on why you guys thought that Melo was not fit to be on an NBA roster, but that Joakim Noah was able to get on a decent team at that. Not even a decent team, I'm saying a good team, not just any team. It's actually a very good team in the Western Conference of all conferences with the Memphis Grizzlies. As you see, one of my good friends, Mike, was able to go ahead and drop me a line and give us his opinion on the entire situation. And I agree with him. I agree that it was a bad fit from the start. I agree that Melo does not play defense. As you guys have probably heard, or if you're new to the podcast, I am a longtime New York Knicks fan. Obviously, Carmelo played some decent years. I'm not saying he played well for the New York Knicks, with the exception of the last couple of years that he was there. The whole Phil Jackson saga. We won't get into how I feel about Phil Jackson, but we will say that he played well for the New York Knicks, but defense was never his forte. While he was there, he had a bunch of different coaches, Mike D'Antoni being one of them, and he doesn't preach defense. So, that being said, I think it was a bad fit from the start. Mike D'Antoni did wind up resigning or quitting, however you want to call it, from the New York Knicks in his tenure there. Mike Woodson wound up taking over, taking the team to the Eastern Conference semis, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. They lost to the Pacers, in which time they made a Roy Hibbert look like Superman, and we've never heard from Roy Hibbert again. Some of you don't even know who Roy Hibbert is now. So, just goes to show you how that all played out. However, Mike D'Antoni did coach Melo, wind up couldn't take it anymore. Offensive strategies didn't match. The whole thing didn't work. I didn't think it was an issue so much with defense. It had more to do with Melo not moving the ball. The 7 seconds or less offense wasn't thriving with Melo on the court. Obviously, with Amari Stoudemire, before he started breaking down, he played very well. He was in MVP talks for the first half of the year that he was there. After the Carmelo trade, things didn't really fit well, but then again, they kind of gave it the benefit of the doubt because it's Melo, and they gave up pretty much the entire team for him. And, you know, it's a new player on a new team and a new scene, so they wanted to give it a chance. When Carmelo went down with the injury, Jeremy Lin came out of nowhere. It was an exciting month and some change for the New York Knicks. He moved the ball around. Obviously, he had some moments where he obviously took the game over, but in a point guard-driven league, in a point guard-driven offense, he looked great. Unfortunately for Jeremy Lin, we haven't heard too much great things from him since, and he's often been injured as well. So, with that being said, I want to get to some of the other reactions that I went ahead and got from you guys over different social media platforms, and I want to share that here so I can, compile them all together, and then I'll go from there as far as some other developments in the entire Melo situation that's going on. So this has been, I made that podcast and I released it on the 6th of December, somewhere around there, so it's been about a week and some change, and so I've had some time to get a lot of feedback from you guys. So I went ahead and I'm going to go ahead and start on my Instagram, because I did go ahead and post it on there as well. And one of my good buddies on Instagram, his name is Mind of Huff, and I believe he has a YouTube as well, so check him out if you can and if you want to. I went ahead and dropped the same thing across all the platforms. So his response to me was, he's being blackballed. He's still an elite player. They just not wanting to use him right and put him in the right position like they did AI. It's a shame. Now, what I went ahead and replied to him was, facts. Same things happening all over again. SMH. And that means just shaking my head. Now, Orange and Blue Forever, he is a big Knick fan. We go back and forth about Knick things, Knick ideas, New York Knicks news, things of that nature. His reply to this was, he still has some game left in the tank. I do believe he's being blackballed a bit, but I also feel he kind of put himself in the situation he's currently in. The fact of the matter is the NBA has changed. The days of the ISO scorer are over. If he would embrace a six-man role where he comes off the bench and lights it up, that'll be good for him. Now, my response to him, because I do agree with some of those points, was I feel like he did accept that role in Houston. Although I think if he had stayed in OKC in the same role, I think it would have been better suited. I think that D'Antoni, is what I call D'Antoni, still had that axe to grind, and he made it so. The Rockets are still getting mopped left and right, and so clearly Melo wasn't the main issue. Now, at that time of me responding to him, the Rockets were getting mopped left and right, and I think they just beat, if I'm not mistaken, the Lakers in a pretty lopsided win. We'll talk about LeBron. If you guys want to talk about LeBron and in a later podcast episode, I will. I think I'm going to do it anyways because he's doing some crazy things with that team, and I think that for those of you who are not fans of LeBron, you still have to respect, or going to get to the point where you have to respect his greatness. But staying on topic, that was from Instagram. And to expand on that whole six-man role thing, I think he did accept that role in Houston. I think it may have been a little too late and in the wrong situation. I think if he would have stayed in OKC, it would have been a little bit better suited for him. Having Paul George there, having Russell Westbrook there, those two talents of those two guys can really take the load off of Melo, and they play defense. So in that situation, because if we look at Houston, right? Houston, again, D'Antoni, he doesn't preach defense. It's an up and down team. Everybody's going to get their shots for the most part, and it is what it is because it's a free flowing offense. And maybe that's why Melo decided, hey, I want to go to this team. Also, probably the only team that was really interested in him at the time was because everybody's going to get their shots, and he's probably figured, I'm going to get my shots. I'm probably not going to be here very long past this year. He probably didn't figure that they were going to go, get very far. I highly doubt it that he thought that was going to happen, but he figured probably because Melo, if anything, he's a businessman. So he probably was thinking, hey, listen, I'm going to get my shots up. It's going to be a free-flowing offense. I already know how D'Antoni works semi, and, I'm going to get my shots. I'm going to be able to try out for another team, essentially. I'm going to look good in this offense. I'm going to get my points, and then for next year, I'll be ready to go to a different team. They'll probably, pay me a little bit more money. I'll be in a better situation, so on and so forth. So this is just strictly thinking from a Melo standpoint, from not obviously now knowing him personally and knowing any inside information, but going by his track record on what he's been known to do, is he goes obviously for the money. He goes for this right situation, right fit, things of that nature. And he figured that obviously it's not going to be my way or the highway type situation with him nowadays because he's older. Teams are not going to bend to his will as they would have back in the day. So I think that whole thing died out with New York and how they shipped him off, and that whole thing ended. I think teams kind of already saw the writing on the wall, and I think he kind of saw the writing on the wall that he could be a good complementary player after leaving OKC. Obviously, he didn't show that he did too great in OKC, so I think this was more like a tryout for him and showcase that he still has some game left in the tank, and then for the next year that he would be in this better situation, or the Rockets would maybe showcase him a little bit more, depending on how things worked out. Now, that being said, him going to the Rockets, and they don't play defense. Harden doesn't play defense, notoriously known for not playing defense. And Chris Paul can only play but so much defense. He's older now. He used to be league leader in steals and things of that nature, but he's older now. He has a lot of the load as far as offensive-wise to carry. He's going up and down the court. He's the floor general, so that takes a lot out of you when you're going consistently up and down the court. Excuse me. to play defense, and you run into offense and all that other good stuff. So, it's one of those things where they don't play defense. James Harden doesn't play any defense. Really, nobody on that team aside from Clint Capella and PJ Tucker play any defense. And again, Mike D'Antoni, he's not going to harp on the fact that you need to play defense. So him staying in OKC, I think, would have been better suited for him because he has someone like Paul George, who is a 3-and-D type of guy who plays defense, who prides himself on defense. He stops the other team's best player 9 times out of 10, or he's guarding the best player 9 times out of 10. And so it's one of those things where, and Russell Westbrook plays 100 miles per hour, whether it be, defense or whatever the case may be. So it's one of those things where he goes out and just scores his buckets, and that's all they would really need from him. Now, if he would have came off the bench in OKC, he would have had carte blanche to do pretty much whatever he wanted to. The thing that didn't work in OKC is because Russell Westbrook is real ball dominant, right? And that's okay in that particular setting because obviously he's the man in OKC. He has a complimentary player now in Paul George, and that they seem to be okay with their dynamic. However, the way that Carmelo was playing and it was used to playing, and how he came into OKC kind of last minute, it really didn't suit his game very well. So anybody who saw the game, that was pretty much how it broke down, and you can see that. Now, for anybody let's go. So now that's out of the way. Let's go to YouTube. And I dropped this on YouTube as well. And then shout out to everybody who listened to the podcast on YouTube and gave feedback as well. This is one of the comments from YouTube, from Jay Real, the MVP. He commented, "Def trying to blackball Melo. And in my opinion, he should not have went to Houston with D'Antoni. He had him in New York." My response to him was, "Facts. It was a bad idea from the jump. Dan Dummy set him up for failure." Another comment was Assault Team Music Group. He put, "That's what I'm saying. Joakim Noah been trash for years, and he got a job ASAP by the Memphis Grizzlies. How is this possible?" SMH. And my response to him was exactly, super trash. They're doing Melo like they did Iverson. He responded to that with, "The worst part is, though, Iverson didn't accept to come off the bench. Carmelo did, and did it better than Eric Gordon, who's shooting a 36% field goal and 31% from 3, but they released Melo in 10 games. He should have known not to go back to that old coach. He was better off going to Portland because Dame and CJ wanted him before OKC and Houston." My response was, "Yep, he accepted that role and they set him up." SMH. Man scored over 20 points in 3 of the 10 games and 17 in another. You can't tell me he's washed or doesn't play defense. The whole team doesn't play defense. That's with regards to Houston. And I'll get into what I'm referencing in those points per game in a little bit. His response to me was, "And look at Houston. They still have a bad team. And I think that if they kept Ariza, they would still be a bad team. He went to the Suns, and they are the worst team in the league. What impact does Ariza make? He's averaging 9 points, shooting 36% field goals, and 34% from 3. He's playing 33 minutes a game. Melo averages 13 and 5, 40% field goal, and 31% from the 3, only 21 minutes. He's like, I don't get how he is off the team." SMH. My response to him was all facts. I'm getting the feeling it was a setup all along. I'll touch on that in a little bit as well. But going into the numbers, and Assault Team Music Group, big shout out to you. He came with numbers. And a lot of people are not into numbers. Obviously, I go by the eye test. I play basketball. I used to play it at a higher level back in the day. But go by the eye test, but I also go by numbers, obviously, because if a team is better with you off the court, that says a lot. But if they're better with you on the court, that also says a lot. If If you don't fit, you just don't fit, right? Now, I'm not trying to advocate, say, oh, Melo needs to be on the team. He's a millionaire, so I don't feel bad for him. Nobody should feel bad for him, obviously. He's a millionaire, and he's had plenty of money in his day, so nobody should feel bad for Melo. However, this is his stats during his 10 games that he played. I'm going to make sure that I get the correct 10 games here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So there's the 10 games. Okay, so Wednesday, October 17th, he played 27 minutes, had 9 points, shot 3 for 10 from the field, and he shot 1 for 5 from 3. 2 turnovers, 4 rebounds. Okay. On the 20th of November versus the Lakers, that was versus New Orleans, that first stats that I gave to you, they wound up losing that game 112 to 131. He played 27 minutes. The next game was versus the Lakers on the 20th. He played 29 minutes, shot 3 for 10, had 7 points, 10 rebounds, 2 turnovers, 1 assist. He played they wound up winning that game 124-115. He played again the 21st versus the Clippers. They wound up losing that game 112-115. He played 27 minutes, 9 points, 6 rebounds, 1 turnover, shot 3 for 8 from the field, 1 for 3 from 3. Next game versus Utah. They wound up losing that game 100-89. He played 39 minutes, wound up scoring 22 points. He had 2 assists, 7 rebounds, shot 9 for 17 for the field, 3 of 8 from three-point land. Next game versus the Clippers. They wound up losing 133-113. He played 34 minutes, scored 24 points, had 2 rebounds, shot 8 of 18 from the field, 6 of 10 from three-point line. Next game versus Portland, they lose 104-85. He played 31 minutes, scored 8 points, had 4 rebounds, shot 2 of 12 from the field, 0 from 2 from three-point land. He also played next game in November 2nd versus Brooklyn. They wound up winning 119-111. He wound up scoring. He played 31 minutes, scored 28 points. He wound up getting 4 rebounds. He shot 9 of 12 from the field, 6 of 9. So you guys can kind of see where I'm going with this. The last good game he played was in Chicago. They wound up winning 96-88. He played 32 minutes. He scored 17 points on 8 of 14 shooting, 1 of 7 from three-point line, and he got 7. He also had 7 rebounds. His last game he wound up playing was in OKC. Funny enough, that his career might be over after being on OKC and then playing in OKC. They lost 98-80. He played 20 minutes, scored 2 points, had 5 rebounds, 111 from the field, 0 from 6 from 3. So obviously, we have figured out by now, guys, this was just a bad fit from the beginning. But those stats aren't of a washed player. The field goal percentage, not that great, but again, when you're in D'Antoni's system, you're going to get shots up like crazy. So, in 20 minutes, 1 for 11 sounds horrible because it is, but he got 11 shots up. The only time that he shot over, he didn't shoot over 20 times, not one game. The best game that he had was the 28-point game, and he shot 9 of 12. He was 6 of 9 from 3, and that was versus Brooklyn. Then he shot 18 times in the Clipper game. He scored 24 points. So out of these games, he scored 3 times out of the 10 games. He scored more than 20 points. Once he scored 17 points, which is over 10, and he only scored 0 points in none of those games. He at least scored 2 points in the last game, which was horrible. He played 20 minutes. He scored 2 points, and he didn't go scoreless in any of those games. So he was still a factor. His plus minus is probably not very good. I didn't look that up because I'm not going to get into those advanced metrics. But that being said, this does not sound of a washed player to me. Does it sound like regular Carmelo Anthony that we're all used to? Hell no. But again, he is getting older. He's not a LeBron James. Nobody is a LeBron James. Well, like I said, I'll talk about that later on. My thing is that this was a bad fit. Daryl Morey, I think, forced this upon Mike D'Antoni, and I think Mike D'Antoni, being Mike D'Antoni, he kind of didn't want to rock the boat, and he wanted to show Daryl Morey that this was not going to work, and he did not put Melo in the best situations to shine. In the case of this, Daryl Morey obviously is his boss. He's the general manager. I think he was pushing more for this for anything. I think Chris Paul might have had a bit to do with this as well, as they are very good friends. So in probably consulting with Chris Paul, or Chris Paul talking to Daryl Morey, he probably said, hey, yeah, that's my good friend. I think we can make this work. I'm here. I believe if anything, we can make this work. I can make this work with him. So they went ahead and got him. D'Antoni probably had his reservations about the situation, and Daryl Morey just said probably, hey, just make it work. If not, it doesn't cost us much, and we can cut our losses if that's the case. And if someone tells you that, and if you don't particularly care for someone because in your last job, just think of it this way. Think of it in a human aspect of it, and you are in a workplace with somebody, that person rubs you the wrong way, you don't get along with that person, you wind up finding a better opportunity somewhere else, and you say, you know what, I'm out of here, I'm going to go to this other situation, better job, and you're not there, so that makes it the best part. Then that person winds up coming to your company, 4 or 5 years down the road. You still don't care for that person because it was a horrible experience. This person put you, they made your life a living hell in the previous job, and now they're coming to your company in this job. Now you might have a little bit more clout in this situation, in this new job, and maybe you have a little bit of axe to grind with that person. And this is not to say that everybody's like this, but there are people that are out there like that. And if and if you're that type of person, you kind of have to accept that fact that you are. And even if you aren't a malicious person, sometimes it's just you don't get along with everybody. So in this particular case, Mike D'Antoni and Carmelo Anthony, they didn't get along well together in New York. And Carmelo was the reason that Mike D'Antoni wound up resigning from the New York Knicks. So if that's the case, and Daryl Morey kind of forced this upon you, and the guys in the locker room are open to the situation, you want to ingratiate yourself with these guys. So you don't want to go against Chris Paul because he's known to be a coach killer. You don't want to go against James Harden because obviously he's the franchise, and if it's you versus James Harden, they're going to pick James Harden 10 out of 10 times. So you kind of just go along with it, and it's like, well, okay, well, I don't think it's going to work, and it's more than likely not going to work, and I'm probably going to make sure that it doesn't work. So then when it doesn't work, then, we just get rid of him, and then that's that. Now, Mike D'Antoni said all the right things. He didn't say anything that would tip anybody off that he didn't like Carmelo. He didn't act in any sort of way either. He said all the right things, as Carmelo said all the right things. But behind the scenes, certain things can happen that we might not know about, and they might come out later on, or they might never come out. But the way things played out on the floor, we saw what happened, and the way that things are playing out currently, we can see what happened, what's going on. Now, the other little tidbit is that the defensive coordinator or coach, whatever you want to call him, for the Houston Rockets, he wound up leaving abruptly. They call it because it was family reasons, but he also has history with Carmelo Anthony in Denver, and they have a history of them not getting along either, butting heads constantly. He was, I believe, Carmelo's first coach in Denver before George Karl came around, if I'm not mistaken. If I am mistaken, please somebody, correct me. But from what I've read and seen, he has a past with Carmelo. They did not get along, and that's that. So, that being said, he wound up leaving, I believe, in October or November, I believe. He wound up leaving, and it was supposedly due to Carmelo Anthony and that whole situation. Not only that, but they said some family situation as well. So that being said, obviously he didn't like Carmelo. He has a history with him. D'Antoni, that whole history, recipe for disaster, and that's how I feel that whole thing played out there. Now, getting to the LeBron thing, LeBron supposedly was interested in the Lakers signing Carmelo Anthony. And I'm going to use this to close this episode out. I think Carmelo could play with LeBron James. And I think anybody could play LeBron James. I think I could play LeBron James. So, and LeBron James has a way of making people look very well. And it's not looking well. He plays to their strengths. Now, he took somebody who, like a J.R. Smith, and I'm not going to say like a J.R. Smith. I'm not shitting on J.R. Smith whatsoever. He's a good NBA player. He's obviously in the NBA for a reason. He can play basketball. But he took someone like a J.R. Smith, who was kind of known for being a knucklehead in New York and his other stops. But he was a Sixth Man of the Year with the New York Knicks, so let's not forget about that. And he played very well. But after that whole situation, he didn't play very well. So he took a J.R. Smith. He's taken a Tristan Thompson. He's taken people like Damon Jones. James Jones. I don't know if there's any more Joneses out there, but guys like that who are kind of fringe players at best on a good team, on a good roster. They would just be bench guys, and he plays to their strengths. Boobie Gibson, for example. There was the other guy. What's his? I don't even remember his name from. Oh my gosh, Mario Chalmers. He made him look like a serviceable point guard, and we saw what he left. Mario Chalmers, I don't even know if he plays basketball anymore. So he has a way of playing to people's strengths and making them look well, putting them into positions on the court to shine. And he's very much like a coach in that way. And I don't want to get into too much about the LeBron thing, because I want to touch on that in a separate episode, just speaking on him. But I think if Carmelo were to play for the Lakers, and I don't know if Magic and Pelinka are even remotely interested in bringing Carmelo, I think the way that they're playing now, I think it would mess things up. I think if Melo would have went to the Lakers in the beginning of the year, things would have been a lot different. I think that would have been something that would have suited him a lot better. Just playing with LeBron, period, the end, would have suited him a lot better. However, there was reports that Lakers did invite him to a workout or something, and he didn't even go, or he didn't respond or something like that, which to me is ludicrous. If you're Carmelo Anthony, why you wouldn't want to play with LeBron, or you wouldn't want to at least look into going to LA. I don't understand that, but again, there's things that he does that doesn't make too much sense. Just not even speaking on a personal level, just on a basketball level. But I think if he were to go, if that were to open up, although I don't know who they would give him, I don't know who they would take away minutes from to give to him. Michael Beasley doesn't play too many minutes to begin with. He's playing a little bit more now, and they're winning, so it's not like they really need Carmelo Anthony. Carmelo Anthony needs a team more now than any team needs him, and that's the situation that he's in. Unfortunately for him, that's the situation that he's in. There's no team right now that's really any good that would look into picking him up that really needs him. And I know that a lot of people would say that the ISO game is dead, but every team has a player that plays a little bit of isolation. Like right now, you look at the Rockets, and that obviously is James Harden. If you look at Golden State, even though they move the ball around, when things get heavy, times get tough, they give the ball to Kevin Durant. Portland, they have Dame Lillard. Every team has their go-to guy. Right now the Sixers, even they traded for Jimmy Butler, and he's new on the team. That's Jimmy Butler, and I want to talk about the Jimmy Butler situation as well, and talking about that in a separate episode. But it's Jimmy Butler, so every team has, even if they move the ball around and this, that, and the third. The Spurs are known for that as well, but they have either LaMarcus Aldridge, or they'll give the ball obviously to DeRozan. So you can't really give me the excuse or the opinion that no team is, it's ISO. He's ISO, and there's no team that plays ISO ball anymore, because every team has somebody that they give the ball to and they say, go get me a bucket. Unfortunately, there's no team that I could see in my mind that would suit Carmelo Anthony in a winning environment that's not developing talent, that would be able to say, once you come aboard and, when we need a bucket, we'll give you the ball. It's your world. You do whatever you want. He's 34 years of age. It's really to the point now where he's not that player anymore. He's a great complementary piece. He would be a great sixth man, and he needs to accept that role, obviously, going forward, if any team does pick him up. Now, if he played with LeBron, I think he probably would be able to extend himself out a little bit more. Say, for example, if he were to be there in conjunction with LeBron, because if we look at it, Dwayne Wade did that kind of same thing. Dwayne Wade obviously is not a starter anymore. He's obviously a great sixth man. He's coming off of the bench in Miami, but he accepted that role. He also accepted that role in Cleveland. But if you look how the whole dynamic with Dwayne Wade and LeBron played out, LeBron really extended Dwayne Wade's career, because Dwayne Wade he's been broken down for quite a while. And there's nothing against Dwayne Wade. He just played at 100 miles per hour, and he was always falling and hurting and hitting the deck. And every play he seemed like after he was on the floor, he just played so hard. And for so long, he was the number one guy. So if you look at it, LeBron extended his career out a considerable amount. And he does that with a lot of the players that play with him. So I think if Carmelo were to go to the Lakers, that would be probably a good fit. They might find... I think LeBron would figure out a way. I'm not going to say Luke Walton. Obviously, we know if LeBron is on any team, we know who's coaching the team for the most part. And when things are going on the floor, what's happening. So I think that would be a good fit for him. Would that take away from, the Kuzmas, the Ingrams, Lonzo Ball, Josh Hart? Those I've already named 4 guys, and then you have LeBron. That's a 5. That's your starting lineup. So then you got Rondo when he comes back. You have Michael Beasley, who's on the bench. You got Lance Stevenson, who plays. You have JaVale McGee, who plays. So it's like, that's already 9 guys. If they pick up Carmelo, he would obviously want to play, and then it's like you have all of those guys. Now, all of those guys aren't great players, right? LeBron is the greatest player on that team. He's probably the greatest player in the NBA right now, based off of what he's done with that team and the guys that he's running with. So they're not great players, but all of those guys have personalities. Like, that's probably the most personalities on any team. They're crazy personalities at that. I'm not even going to say like they're regular, guys that you can go and say, okay, I'm going to talk to these 2 guys the same, then I'm going to talk to these 2 guys the same. No, like, each person, you have to speak differently on that team. It's crazy. So how do you manage those minutes going 10 deep on a team like that, getting everybody minutes? Then you bring Carmelo Anthony into the mix, and you want to give him minutes. Him and LeBron are friends, so it's like you don't want to piss him off as being the coach. So that would be a sticky situation if they did bring him along. His metrics don't show that great. Again, that team right now, the Lakers, they run up and down the court like crazy. They're like greyhounds. And the reason that happens is because they have young players. And then, of course, they have LeBron. So in the half-court setting, you give the ball to LeBron, you let him go to work, or you give the ball to Lonzo, you let him go to work and create some stuff. Then when Rondo comes back, he's good at setting things up and pick and roll and things of that nature. So, Kyle Kuzma, Brandon Ingram, Josh Hart, they just fly up and down the court, and you got those 3 guys running. You got LeBron, who's still running up and down the court like mad, and then if you have JaVale McGee trailing or going down the court, you got 4 or 5 guys that are flying at you every possession that they can. And then to bring Carmelo Anthony into that mix, who's not known for that. I don't know if his conditioning is up there. He didn't look like he was running too fast up and down the court when he was playing. And of course, he's an older guy now, so that wouldn't suit him too well at his advanced age. And he's just never been that kind of player to go run up and down the court. So I don't think that whole situation would fit him. Let me know what you guys think. Like I said before, I appreciate you guys listening. I appreciate you guys giving me your feedback on this entire situation with Carmelo Anthony. We can keep the narrative. Going if you guys want to talk about it. Until he links up with a team, I don't know if I'll talk about it again. Unless you guys want to keep talking about this. But until he gets on a team, I don't know if there's much else to say, man. I don't think that there's really too much else to say because of the fact that he is not on a team. And it doesn't look like he's going to be on a team for the foreseeable future. He doesn't look like, and it doesn't sound like anybody's very interested in him either. So, there's that. Just really quick to go over the whole Joakim Noah thing. And for anybody who's a fan of Joakim Noah, more power to you. I'm not a fan of his just for the fact of what transpired in New York. Also, what he's recently come out and said about a couple days ago or a day ago, where he said that he was too lit for New York. To finish this off, he said this himself, that when he was playing in New York, that it didn't work out because he's too lit for New York. I'm too lit to play in New York City is what his words were. He was known to party all the time, pretty much every night. Always had people over his, hanging out with him and whatever the case may be. Team sources were known to tell Porzingis and Frank Ntilikina, which are the two young New York Knicks players, not to hang out with Joakim Noah because he was known to party way too much, and team officials knew this, and they didn't particularly care for it. Jeff Hornacek also knew of this, obviously, and didn't particularly care for it. He is a pro's pro, especially when he played, and he was not up with the shenanigans, and he butted heads with Joakim Noah also for that same reason. So that's just a little tidbit on that. Now, for his stats, since he's come back and played in the 5 games that he's played, excuse me, with the Grizzlies, let me see, just make sure that that's exactly 5 games. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, actually, he's played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, six games. So in the 6 games that he's played, in the first game he played was versus the Clippers. He scored 4 points, scored 13 points, 6 points, 4 points, 4 points, 5 points. So, and he's played 13 minutes, 17 minutes, 18 minutes, 19 minutes, 13 minutes, 13 minutes. Averaging 6 points a game. That sounds to me more like a complimentary player. Sounds more like, to me, a player, and he's 33, so he's not that much younger than Carmelo, who's in a right situation. He's playing, not a lot of minutes. He's playing 13, he's between playing 10 to 15 minutes average a game. So he's averaging 15.5 minutes a game. J.B. Bickerstaff is the coach of the Memphis Grizzlies. He's doing a good job of putting him in the position to look well, obviously. 13 points is no, in the NBA, that's against the Pelicans at that, is not anything to scoff at. So he's doing well. I imagine if he stays healthy and stays out of trouble, that he'll probably continue to play at a decent clip. If he can stay healthy, they'll probably keep him around for a while, and other teams will see that, okay, well, he can play, sparse minutes, but he can still play, he can still go, and he'll probably have a pretty decent career going forward until he winds up retiring or winds up doing whatever he's going to do. So, will it be the same for Carmelo? I don't know. I hope that this is not the end of the road for him, because I do like him as a player. I do like the things that he does off the court as far as charities and things of that nature. So as a person, he does a lot of philanthropy as well. I do like the things that he does. Just unfortunately that we would see him go out like this. If this is his last stop, it would suck for him. It would suck for his fans. But it is what it is. So let me know what you guys think. As always, I appreciate you guys taking the time out to go ahead and listen to the podcast. This is 15 Minutes of Flame. I am your host, Paper Drew. If you wish to leave me a comment, go ahead and you can do so. You can leave a message at the end of this podcast, and you will have a chance to be featured on the next one. For the next couple episodes, I'm going to talk about LeBron. I want to touch on Jimmy Butler and Philadelphia situation, and I want to touch on some other things as well. So stay tuned for that. I appreciate you guys listening, and as always, y'all stay blessed.